I swear to God, I'll never understand the whole "it's just fiction" mindset. Thinking that you can't be racist, fatphobic, or ableist towards a character because they're fictional is ridiculous. The way people interact with fiction says a lot about them, and I'll always stand by this. They're fictional, you can't offend them. Yeah, but you sure can expose your shitty attitude towards real people who are represented by those characters. Fiction has always reflected reality, and people's stand on it means more than they're willing to accept. Hi everyone, today I gathered some posts tagged as Discourse or hot takes related to writing and fanfiction on Tumblr. Nothing too crazy, probably more positive than negative overall, but let me know if you agree with them or not, and share your own writing hot takes in the comments if you want. Just try to be respectful of everyone else's opinions if they're, not obviously nasty, and especially be kind to the original posters shown in the video. I have my own opinions agreeing or disagreeing with these things, but I'm not here to have an angry debate, just to be open-minded and hear everyone's point of view, whether I feel the same way as them or not. But overall, I think most of you will find most of these pretty agreeable. But let's read some more and find out, shall we? Every time someone talks about the main character of a series, especially fantasy or children's media, being boring, I have to wonder if y'all actually think the character is genuinely boring, or if you think goodness and morality are boring. Forgive me for being extreme, but I think we've reached a point where everyone who calls character development episodes filler should be sent to media literacy detention, where in order to earn their freedom, they have to take a mandatory course outlining the difference between actual filler episodes and episodes that slow the plot progression down to give the characters necessary growth. I age them up. The fact that you have to age them up says a lot. Ships should at least make sense. No, ships can make sense, sure, but they're just fictional characters we play with for fun. They're fantasies, not a f***ing thesis paper. So no, they don't always have to make sense. They just have to make you happy. Let people enjoy fictional things however they want to enjoy. The canon isn't real, we make our own rules, to I am begging you people to revisit the source material pipeline. You have to know the rules so you can break them with intention and precision, otherwise your work will never be truly transformative. Literally, the first step in jazz is to get the original piece down. That's the only way you can riff in a way that works. The summary looks really interesting, but it's for a ship I don't like, so I'm going to skip it. Well, there's nothing wrong with this approach to reading fanfiction. I've never really understood it. Some of the best fics I've read have been for ships I don't personally enjoy, and even for fandoms I'm not in. I have always valued an enjoyable story over pairing, and I strongly recommend this approach. You never know when you might find something you really enjoy. My rules for participating in fandom are: don't be mean, let people like what they like, explore, if it looks cool, read it, and remember you can click off anything you don't like. If everyone followed these rules, fandom would be happy. A fandom mindset that really needs to come back is don't break the fourth wall. Make whatever you want, but don't show it to the original creator. Writers legally cannot read fic of their work, and it is a perfectly reasonable boundary for actors not to want erotic art of their characters thrust upon them. Don't link copyright holders to fan merch of their IP. And for the love of stop tagging the people who make the thing you're a fan of to validate your headcanons or rebuke someone else's. Unless they specifically asked, you don't get to tell a fanfic writer you think they mischaracterized the character, by the way. Because the second someone writes a fanfic about a character, that character becomes the writer's own version of the character. Canon is only a suggestion, but whether or not an author will follow it, or how much of canon an author will take, is entirely up to them. You don't get to stick your nose in their world and tell them, hey, this is not to my liking, therefore I think you're doing it wrong, when you can simply leave quietly and move on to something else you may enjoy. When it comes to the whole debacle over the amount of MLM fanfic versus WLW fanfic, sometimes I'm like, maybe we are the problem. maybe people saying we should just create more instead of complaining have a point. And then I come across someone saying, unironically, men are just more interesting. Just outright. And it provides me a nice reminder that no, I and others like me are not the problem. Also, in general, that argument about just create more annoys me because, like, yeah, okay, let me and my small circle of friends go write 15,000 more fanfic just so a single WLW ship we like can reach the top 100. It's such a hand-wavy dismissal of something worth actual examination in fandom spaces. The thing is that if comments, kudos, or engagement are payment for authors' free work, aka if fandom is transactional, then readers are in fact paying for something. And if readers are paying for something, then fic is a product. And if you are paying for a product, you are in fact, generally speaking, entitled to make some basic demands regarding said product. What that looks like is going to be different from reader to reader, but we have spent years upon years arguing, rightly so, that people are not entitled to updates or completed fics or to offer unsolicited criticism or fics going the way they want them to, or that authors shouldn't have the right to delete their stuff, etc., etc. And that entire argument crumbles the moment you turn this into a transaction, and it's just no wonder, if no less goddamn obnoxious, that readers' entitlement is skyrocketing when they are treated like fucking customers. Like, turning this into an us versus them, seller versus customer thing is, aside from entirely ignorant of the fact that writers most often are readers themselves, the most horrific thing happening to fandom. Stop turning this into a fucking free market under the guise of community. Narrative hot takes. Love as a virtue is out. Love is not good or kind or patient. It's the fundamental need and desire for others, and that can be twisted or cruel or sublime or steady. It's animal. It's fundamental. It's not good. Trauma is not interesting. Trauma is just one of the many bad things that can happen to a person. It's there, it's real, it's not a lens onto deeper truth or a substitute for character development. World building is not an end to itself. It's a supporting structure. Do as much or little as you need. And aesthetic choices can be an end in themselves. Free yourself to write or create specifically to the end of refining an artistic goal. This might be a writing hot take, but here it goes. Personally, I don't think it's important to get too far into detail of what your character looks like unless it's detrimental to the story. Like, if it's a romance or smut story and the allure of your character is important to the progression of the story, absolutely describe what they look like and how the target of their affection makes them feel. But if you're writing a horror story, for example, the main character can be described minimally. If anything, describe the antagonist and how threatening and scary they are. Of course, this isn't me saying you have to write that way. If you want to describe in full detail the elegant ball gown your protagonist wears to the murder mystery dinner party, whatever. But my take is basically saying this bottom line and also offering this advice. Describe what matters. Don't get overwhelmed and think you have to describe everything, because I used to do that too and got burnt out on writing easy that way. Plus, putting all that extra fluff with no direction towards the plot will usually lead your reader to disinterest. I will never understand people complaining about words like snarl and hiss and growl and bark as dialogue tags, as if me saying someone hissed doesn't immediately conjure an idea in their head of how someone would have said that. They are quite clearly metaphors. I'm sorry, if you think bark means someone actually barked like a dog, you may just be stupid. The most devastating thing a fic writer can do is delete their fic. I make a desperate appeal to all fic writers. Please, even if you think your work is shit, leave it on fanfic sites anyway. Any piece of your work that you have done is extremely valuable and valid. Now, but honestly, the animosity Canon x Canon writers have towards ex-reader writers, and vice versa in some cases, is so deeply odd to me. All fanworks exist in a perpetual feedback loop, where fics and art and etc. is always going to have influence over other fics and art, regardless of what side it belongs to. It's just silly to pretend otherwise. If you choose to view them as polar opposites, be my guest, but it's just not true. They're all depictions and explorations of a character or characters. Like, I'm sorry, but sincerely, it does not matter if someone writes a fic being like, I want them to kiss, or I want him to kiss me. It doesn't change a single thing. This is a bit of a hot take, but I also feel that it's wrong to assume X-Reader works are more self-indulgent than Character X character works. Like, I hate to break it to you, but all fic writers are self-indulgent. Please, point me to one who isn't. I would like to meet them. The reason why people are delusional about the fanfic is equal to published literature, hell, if I want quality, I never reach for a physical book anymore, is actually the decades of pretentious assholes denigrating fanfic as a very concept and asking why anyone would waste time on it instead of becoming a real writer. Thus spawning a brood of overly defensive assholes now proudly broadcasting how they won't read anything unless it comes with tags attached. No actual substance, just assholes. Your fanfic does not need to be anything like the source material. Sorry for shouting, but please, it's fiction, it's all made up. Canon isn't more real than your fanfic. Characters don't need to be anything similar to how they are in the show. You can make two characters who never interact get married, make the grumpy character soft, the flawed character perfect, or the perfect character flawed. Your story doesn't need to be an in-depth character analysis. The characters are your toys to play with. Don't be scared of writing a Mary Sue. Don't you remember playing dolls when you were kids, and your Barbie was a secret undercover agent and a vampire, Spider-Man was her second husband who was secretly evil, and their child was a random dog toy you found under the couch? Your fanfic is your dollhouse. Make your favorite characters kiss and ignore anyone who hates on it. They don't understand the game anyway. I can write XYZ character however I want because they're fictional. Yeah, of course, but people are still allowed to complain, to critique perceived mischaracterizations. Should they be rude? No, but if you yourself are admitting that you are changing a character because it's your right and they're not real and yada yada yada, then why are you mad that people are pointing it out? If it is not rude, if it isn't a direct attack, if it's a simple observation, then what's the issue? I don't know. Another thought, one that I don't really know how to communicate, so bear with me, is I feel that a lot of people are extremely resistant to any form of conflict or critique, basically anything that isn't support or silence. And it's a little off-putting to me, like, how is anyone meant to improve without input from others? Furthermore, a critique of your work is not an attack on you, but more of an observation. So why is it wrong to share? Are creative spaces not a place for discussion? But I also do think you have a right to reject advice, whether it's constructive or not. If you do not want it, then it shouldn't be forced on you. A hobby can be a hobby without the need to get better or improve. Like, if it's something you do for the joy of it, then that's that. Gentle reminder, stop asking writers when the next chapter is coming out. It's great that y'all love their writing, but they don't owe you new chapters. They're humans with lives outside of Tumblr. Also, their writing is free. If I had someone constantly in my ask box asking when a new chapter is going to come out, it would kill my interest to write. Be patient and be kind. Anyway, I do think we need to address the fact that we seem to treat fan writing and fan art fundamentally different. Or maybe I'm biased and just not seeing the other side, and if so, you guys can gently point that out. But I feel like people do not just demand and expect artwork of their faves in the tags generally, the way they demand writing, as if it's not just as much of an act of labor as anything else. All fan work is an act of labor and love. You are entitled to none of it. I used to think that people who put their writing behind Patreon and other such paywalls were doing too much, but not gonna lie, I get it now. Even if I would never do it personally, legal ramifications of monetizing fanfic and fan art aside, if you're going to treat it like content and not fandom, at that point you might need to start paying up like content and not fandom. Regarding fanfic as content, I think that's why I feel so disconnected from it. Everything is fucking content, and if you're not mass producing it, staying relevant, and appealing to every single person, then it's pointless to engage in the art. I wish a very die to the word content. I hate it, and I hate how much the internet has capitalized off this shit. Not everyone wants to be content creators. Some folks just want to make weird art and connect with others. Every time I leave a long, thoughtful comment on a fanfic where I put genuine thought and interest into what the author is trying to communicate to me, and don't receive any reply, I get more and more pissed about people whining about never getting comments. Maybe the reason you're not getting any comments is that people see the wasteland of comments on your work that received no reply and think that it would be a waste of time to comment. You can make all the pinky promises you want that you super duper appreciate comments, but if you don't actually show that in your work or reply, there's no difference between your week-old fic with no replies and a fic from 2007 left abandoned and dead. And you're essentially arguing that you both deserve engagement for existing, while also claiming you have no responsibility whatsoever to engage back. Maybe engage with your audience a little, and your audience will engage with you. When YN does something so cringe that I have to look at the invisible camera for a sec. I have been seeing a lot of posts with this similar take, and as a fanfic writer who tries to give the reader insert character a personality, if this is you, more often than not, maybe that just means you need to start writing your own fanfics. A thing folks should know is that it's near impossible to tell from someone's writing alone whether something is a fetish, some trauma they're processing, self-projection, or any combination of the above. And that's why arguments such as, X thing is never allowed in fiction unless it's to cope, or this can be written about except if it's a fetish, will always fall flat, because you have no way to know which is which, and the writer might not always know either. Oh, but I just know what this one is. I can just tell. Said based on the various hilariously wrong assumptions that have been made about me based on my writing. I assure you, you don't. Fanfic TikTok is wild. I see so many people saying like, I could never read anything below 60,000 words, or what story can you even tell in under 5,000 words, or a one-shot below 10,000 isn't even a story, or I always filter completed fics by over 100,000 words only. And I'm like, which fandoms are you reading fics for where you have this kind of offerings on the regular? Have you heard of short stories? If you truly think every story needs to be long form to connect with people, I sincerely feel sorry for you. And the average novel length is between 50,000 to 100,000 words. I'm sorry, but consistently demanding fic writers to push out fics of that length is insane. Just think about it. You demand authors to put out fics that compare to commercial novels in length and quality as a baseline. Nothing feels more free than the realization that canon, fanon, and headcanon are all 1000% fake and made up, and therefore all equally true and equally false. None are better or worse than the other. They just either appeal to you, or they don't. Big thank you to my Patreon members, My Little Ruse, Nebulatic Vexen, Donka42, John Huang, Laser Scorpio, Night Avenger, Mintara, Somnophobic Danny, Savage Otters, Valsy, Terabyte AIX, Kestrel, Dragonborn Canid, and Angie Ender. Thank you so much for extra support on Patreon, it means the world to me. I gathered way too many posts for this video and had to cut a lot out, so I'm gonna try hard to get the outtakes uploaded to Patreon for this video. So keep an eye out for that. I hope you guys are doing well. Again, I really appreciate you. The same goes to my YouTube channel members, my Mini Ruse, Foxstar Killer, This Person 10, and Rainy Can't. Thank you so much for your extra support. I'm so glad to have you be part of my YouTube channel. You guys are extra special, and I really appreciate you being here and sticking around. Thanks again. And thank you to everyone else for watching. As I said, feel free to have a friendly debate over these posts in the comments and share your own unique fanfiction or writing hot takes. It's always good to get outside of your little bubble and hear some other opinions every once in a while to stretch your brain and challenge your views and either gain a new opinion or solidify your old one, you know? But I always think the most important thing in writing is just, as long as you enjoy what you're doing, that's what's most important. So I look forward to hearing from you. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, I wish you all the very, very best.